The underwater aircraft carrier I-40 was a submarine that could carry 3 planes weighing up to 45 tons inside it and float in water without being detected by any country's radar. It could secretly reach enemy nations' borders and attack them using planes. Plus, it had enough fuel capacity to circumnavigate the entire Earth without resurfacing, needing only 1 refuel. Amazing, right? Well, in 1944, Japan revealed this revolutionary technology to the world, which even embarrassed giant superpowers like the US and Germany. And all of this was achieved by a country as small as Rajasthan in just 3 years. But at that time, in terms of technology, it had shaken the world. European powers always considered Japan an outsider, but despite being an outsider, Japan developed this technology at a time when intercontinental ballistic missiles didn't even exist. Yes, at that time, if a country wanted to attack an enemy nation, there was no missile that could be launched from Japan and directly attack Germany or the USA. But with the help of Japan's submarine, Japan could sit right here and launch full-scale attacks on enemy nations like the US and the UK. Now, it wasn't that other countries didn't have aircraft carriers. They did have aircraft carriers, but they looked like this, while Japan's aircraft carrier looked like this. So, the question now arises, what technology did Japan use to make it undetectable? What materials did it use that could carry such heavy weight and still move underwater? And surprisingly, its history is quite weird, no? Just 1 year later, in 1945, Japan's I-401 submarine and the US's Seagull submarine were face to face. Japan had the chance to destroy the US submarine in one go, but that didn't happen. Instead, the US captured this technology, and a year later, the US destroyed Japan's submarine, and this technology vanished forever. But now the question arises, why did the US destroy such advanced technology instead of building it themselves? Well, to answer all these questions, we need to go back in time a bit, to when the idea of this underwater aircraft submarine first came to Germany in 1914, during World War I. This was a time when countries were divided into 2 groups. On one side were the Central Powers, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Turkey. On the other side were the Allied forces, France, Great Britain, Russia, Italy, Japan, and the US. Yes, Japan and the US were friends back then. Anyway, in this war, the situation was such that Germany could attack the other countries of the Allied forces. But due to the 650 kilometers long English Channel between Germany and Britain, attacking Britain became difficult for Germany. This was because the loud sound of the planes being sent for the attack alerted the British Army early, and they could prepare for the enemy's arrival. So, Germany wanted to develop a technology that would allow them to secretly reach Britain's borders without being detected and launch a direct attack. And for this, Germany adopted a unique strategy: surprise plane attacks. For this, they took a submarine and engineered it in such a way that a plane could be attached to it. Basically, their plan was that the submarine would move quietly underwater, and the plane attached to it, even if it was above water, would reach Britain's coast without starting the engine or making noise. Once close, the plane would launch, and there would be fewer chances of Britain being prepared in advance. And it was because of this unique strategy that the idea of a submarine aircraft carrier was born for the first time in the world. Now, if you think about it, it was a good strategy, no doubt about that. But would this strategy have worked during the war? Obviously not, because during the war, not only the Air Force, but also the Sea Force remains equally active. So, in such a delicate situation, even if Germany reached the enemy country, the plane above water could still be easily detected. Plus, their submarine didn't have a stealth mode, meaning it could also be easily detected by the enemy's radar. And because of these reasons, unfortunately, despite this unique strategy, Germany lost World War I, and all its possessions, including the aircraft carrier, were captured by the US. After this, the US began efforts to build its own underwater aircraft. In fact, the US was quite impressed by Germany's unique technology, and so it decided to build its own aircraft submarine. Plus, the US was already well aware of the flaws in submarines. They knew that if they kept the plane above water and surface, they could easily be spotted by the enemy. And so, the US made modifications to address these issues. They built a hangar, a garage-like structure, where the planes would be stored and then locked so that water wouldn't enter. And from this point onwards, these submarines truly became underwater aircraft carriers, perfect weapons for secret stealth attacks. But there was still one problem with this underwater aircraft carrier. With its help, the U.S. could secretly launch planes. But when it came to recovery, meaning suppose the planes needed to land back on the submarine after the attack, that was just impossible, because the submarine's deck would constantly move up and down due to floating on water, making it too unstable for plane landings. And you know what? Just because of this one small disadvantage, the U.S. dropped the idea of this submarine. So, first Germany and now the U.S., two major technologically advanced countries had tried and failed at their own levels. But then, cut directly to World War II. Suddenly news came that Japan was not one of those two. Japan, ignoring the failures of both, was investing its time in developing its own aircraft carrier technology. Now, did this mean Japan had better ideas than the U.S. to build this technology, or was this the dumbest decision in Japan's entire history? Well, today you know well that Japan lost World War II, so you might think it was probably a dumb decision. But actually, that wasn't the case at all. In fact, during World War II, while Germany wanted total control of Europe, Japan's mission was total control of Asia. But the problem was that at that time, the U.S.'s involvement in Asia was increasing. So, to remove the U.S.'s involvement from the Asian region, in December 1941, Japan attacked the U.S.'s Hawaiian Islands, specifically Pearl Harbor, and a full-scale war began between the U.S. and Japan. After this attack, Japan was now under the threat of a U.S. attack. But as they say, offense is always the best defense. And so, to avoid a U.S. attack and to attack them first, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto of the Japanese Navy planned to build 18 secret underwater aircraft carriers, named the I-400 class submarines. Now, the most surprising thing here is that Japan and the U.S.'s enmity began in 1941, when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. And in just 3 years, Japan built and launched these I-400 series submarines, meaning a small country like Japan achieved in just 3 years what big countries like the U.S. and Germany couldn't do in their entire lifetimes. But how? Well, Japan's mindset was very clear. It's not always necessary to make mistakes yourself and learn everything from scratch. You can learn a lot by analyzing others' mistakes. Like, Japan analyzed the flaws in Germany and the U.S.'s submarines and installed modern systems in its submarines that could completely overcome those flaws. For example, to protect its submarine carrier from enemies, Japan made 2 key modifications. First, they coated the submarine with a material that could absorb all kinds of sound waves, making it undetectable by enemy sonar detectors. Second, during wars, magnetic mines are often used. When a submarine comes near these mines, they detect the submarine's magnetic field and explode. To prevent this, Japan installed demagnetizing cables in its submarines. These cables reduce a ship's magnetic field using current, protecting it from mines. And so, because of these 2 modifications, Japan's underwater aircraft carrier became undetectable and well secured. But what made it unbeatable was its unique ability to carry 3 planes at the same time. To carry these planes, the submarine had a cylindrical-shaped aircraft hangar where 3 Aichi M6A1 bomber planes could easily fit. To accommodate them, Japan designed these planes to fold. Once folded, they could be locked in a hangar, and the submarine could move underwater, reaching close to its target and launching the planes. Launching these planes was also quite simple. Just like how pulling back a rubber band on a slingshot creates pressure, and when released, the stone is launched, the same principle was used here. The submarines create pressure using steam cylinders, and then released it to launch the planes. Meaning, Japan had created a perfect weapon that no one could detect or destroy using water mines. So, a natural question arises here. If Japan had such advanced submarines and the strategy to attack, then why did Japan never use the most advanced submarine of that time and also lose the war? Well, friends, Japan could never use this technology because 2 major events during the war completely ruined Japan's plans. Japan's first blow came in 1942 during the Battle of Midway Island, where the U.S. severely defeated Japan. Japan hadn't even recovered from this shock when, in April 1943, the Japanese Navy suffered another blow when Admiral Yamamoto, the mastermind behind these secret submarines, was killed in a U.S. attack. Because of these two incidents, Japan's plan to build underwater submarines started getting delayed. Contrary to their original plan, only 5 out of 18 submarines received official approval, and only 2 were completed. Now, attacking a big country with just 2 submarines required courage, and this is where Japan lost. On July 25, 1945, Japan's 2 submarine aircraft carriers set out to attack the U.S. naval base at Ulithi Atoll. But before they could reach, they received a message that Japan had already surrendered to the U.S. The reason was the nuclear attacks on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which forced Japan to surrender. Upon receiving this message, they turned back toward Japan. But during their return, something happened that brought Japan's most advanced weapon, its underwater aircraft carrier, to the world's attention for the first time. While returning, one of the submarines, the I-401, accidentally came into view of a U.S. submarine. Since the I-401's commander, Satoshi Arzu, had received orders to attack any enemy submarine in sight, he immediately fired all his weapons at the U.S. submarine. In response, the U.S. submarine did the same. But before anything could happen, Arzu received unconditional surrender orders from the Japanese High Command, and the U.S. captured the I-401 submarine aircraft carrier, meaning Japan's secret weapon was now in the hands of the U.S. As a result, the demand for Japan's secret technology increased worldwide. After all, this was a technology that even the most advanced countries had failed to develop. But a small country like Japan had prepared it for war in just 3 years. And so, even Russia started asking the U.S. for this submarine to study its technology and design. But think about it, what would the U.S. have done in such a situation? Well, the U.S. destroyed the submarine overnight, or at least that's what the U.S. claims. From the U.S.'s perspective, the submarine was so advanced that giving its technology to competitors would have been a threat to their own dominance. After Japan, no country could build this technology, and no one even tried. In fact, from then until today, no country has wanted to use underwater aircraft carriers. There are 3 main reasons for this. First, these submarines were 1.5 times larger than the American submarines of World War II, and because of this, it took them twice as long to surface compared to American submarines. Second, the entire process of launching planes from these submarines took about 45 minutes, meaning this submarine, which could circumnavigate the Earth without being detected by any radar, became completely vulnerable to enemy attacks during these 45 minutes. Third, in 1960, the U.S. developed intercontinental ballistic missile technology, which was even more advanced than these submarines. This technology gave them the capability to destroy any country from the comfort of their homes. And compared to submarine aircraft carriers, these missiles were much easier to build and deliver. So, all in all, this technology, which was the most advanced during World War II, became somewhat irrelevant in the coming years. And you know what? This happens with almost every technology. New technology comes, and the old one becomes irrelevant. The point is Japan, which is 9 times smaller than India, and which had 2 superpowers like the US and the USSR chasing after it, achieved such feats. In fact, even today, Japanese companies are far ahead of technology. Just look around your home. Most major electronic appliances like TVs, ACs, refrigerators, mixers, and washing machines are made in Japan. So, the question is, if a small country that was completely destroyed after World War II can do all this, then why can't India, the 7th largest country in the world, do the same? We have the resources, brilliant minds, and manpower. Today, 6 out of the top 10 foreign companies have Indian CEOs and founders. In the US, UK, and Canada, Indians hold top positions. In short, other countries are using Indian brains. But why isn't such innovation happening in India? Why aren't such advanced technologies being developed here? Why don't other countries use made in India products? Well, I think one of the reasons is our mindset. I think first, we need to forget our colonial past because the British ruled over us And some of this mindset was created that Indians are uncivilized and lag behind in technology and innovation. Even today, there is a tendency in our country to consider made in India products inferior. I think we should take inspiration from Japan in this matter, how that country believes in itself, and understanding its weaknesses like its small size and lack of resources plays to its strengths. It can create intellectual resources and export them to other countries. A live example of such revolutionary technology was shown. Finally, an engine that runs on water. Yes, can you believe it? An engine that runs on water. A car that runs on water. This technology can beat all companies, including Elon Musk's Tesla, which makes so-called eco-friendly cars. Now, what is this technology and how does it work? I've already made a detailed video on this, which you can watch by clicking here. If you like this video and learned something new, do give it a like. See you next time. Stay curious and keep learning. Bye.